Please help me welcome Will Purves.
Hello. Is this on? Yeah. Yay. Okay. Hi, I'm Will. I cleverly made a mnemonic device for my presentation. So I'm blind, and I figured this would be a good way to remember what I was going to say, which I'm hoping will be the case. So my talk is about accessibility and sort of the importance of accessibility in planning and design. So I decided to just take those letters and spell out the concepts and things that were important to me and to our agency. So as Kirk said, I work for Disability Network. One of the things that we really stress in our work and in planning in general is the linking of affordable housing and accessible housing. There's a critical shortage of both in our county and region, and we really deeply believe that these two issues should be really tightly connected. So the next one, I believe, is a C. Making towns, cities, buildings, and so forth accessible is one way to really build community. Building things accessibly is incredibly cost effective. Many people think that there's a high cost to making things accessible, but it's often incredibly low, and it pays off over time. More and more people can use the product. If you're in business, then these are customers, these are clients. They often tend to last longer because of that. The next letter is E, so everyone. If you make things accessible, more people can use them. So a good phrase I learned just the other day actually was essential to some, helpful to most. And most accessibility frameworks and improvements fall into that category. Then sustainable. Accessible design works for more people longer. You can build something and it becomes useful for someone over the long term. And there's less, you don't have to go back to the drawing board. You don't have to do any remodeling. That really builds and becomes part of our collective culture. Then supportive. Some of us, no one identified here, are proud, we're stubborn, we're used to being left out of decision making. Building things accessible and asking about accessibility is a supportive act. It was really cool for this event, just as an aside, meeting with folks ahead of time and seeing the, as a byproduct of that conversation about how to make Neighborhood Week more accessible, has made this evening, for me especially, it's really welcoming. Things have been really easy. And so just those conversations make a difference. The next one, I, independence. So Disability Network, where I work, is part of we're a center for independent living. There's 13 of us across Michigan. And sort of a foundational part of our philosophy is that an individual with disabilities should have as much control over as much of their life as possible. And a place to live is probably the cornerstone of that, where someone can live independently. And a lot of our work in this community and across Michigan is focused on housing and getting people into their own homes and apartments. Then I snuck in an extra letter here. So accessible housing, infrastructure, programs, projects. If you think about accessibility, you're thinking about user experience more deeply, and oftentimes the results are just better built, and that's a good thing. Infrastructure. So one cool thing about accessibility, especially in an urban landscape, is that accessibility features last a long time. And just this year in Kalamazoo, the first curb cut that was built in the United States in 1947. It says 46 here, but that's the year the first privately funded curb cut was built in Grand Rapids. Battle Creek, sorry, at the VA hospital there right after the war. But that's a long time to have an accessibility feature in an urban environment. So if you're building something and you're making changes in your environment, then they're gonna be there, and they'll serve people for generations to come. Then liberty. So this is really for people with disabilities, having greater degrees of freedom, more degrees of freedom to move around, not necessarily just physically, but also in terms of programmatically, being able to make as many choices as they can is fundamental to this, the reality of independence. Income, one of the things, this is the other, besides housing, we work on employment, so having the means to make a living is really critical, and especially now, looking at the economic health of our communities, having accessible jobs, thinking about training and different work modalities is really important. Transportation, I know no one here is interested in this, we spend, this is the sort of third pillar of what we work on, and we firmly believe transportation, accessible transportation has to be multimodal, it has to be point to point, it also has to be door to door, and it also has to be door through door. And so thinking about using and integrating those different transportation modalities within a system, an urban system, is really critical because it helps people throughout all stages of their life. And then finally, the why is you. You can make a difference. And I was going to ask people to close their eyes for just a second here and think about something, place you live, place you work, something you do, and just think about, maybe 5 seconds, think about what could I do going forward to make things slightly more accessible. That's it. We can help. So call me. That's what I do. That's part of my job.